A special thanks to all those in collaboration with KPP in Art, World Outreach, and individuals within this ministry for your selfless and heroic efforts in this work against depression. As my goal has, is, and will always be to eliminate suicide. Now I just hit play. I'll be able to do a recording of this and show you guys the footage that I got. Okay, so let's talk about spiritual energy. My spirit energy is it's so strong. I was also told that there's a light that follows me. And with each step you take towards something you are so passionate about, something that you are running so hard towards, the more this turns out in your favor, the stronger your faith becomes. Since I was 8, I felt a presence that it seemed to always be watching me. I don't want to say entity because entity seems very limiting when it comes to this presence. I can feel when it's around. And like I've said, I've been told that so many times on so many different accounts by so many people. Wherever you go, darkness flees. You bring the light that is extremely strong and unbreakable. For a long time, I thought that I was crazy, and I didn't want to tell no one about this. This is something I think it's become so attached and so fond of me. And I know that sounds cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but you don't have to believe it. A large part of me said, how do you know if there isn't something with you? And explaining that to someone who is very deep and embedded with the dark practices, creatures that they can summon, do whatever they ask them to. Aleister Crowley would call them spiritual guides. They were not a part of this world. And listening to this, I felt a connection. I actually have a presence, a strong protective presence that is not of this world. I remember this like it was yesterday. I think we were coming back from the grocery store. We was on Martin Luther King, and we were about to pass Page Boulevard when this truck came out of nowhere and hit us. I didn't see this coming. This was almost as quick as a snap of your fingers. It just, the moment came and left. The side that the truck hit threw me on the other side because I was right behind the driver's side, which my mother was the driver and my sister was in the front seat. Luckily, it hit the back passenger side and not the driver's side, because it would have instantly killed my mom had she been driving a bit slower that day. And the car spun around in a 360. And before I knew it, things went so fast. She got hauled out on a stretcher into the ambulance and drove off. My stepdad at the time had came to pick us up, to take us back home. This was in broad daylight, by the way. It was a very, very cloudy day, too. But the sun was out, but it was very, very cloudy. I was asked by one of the paramedics when they came, and they had to almost drill open the door just to get my mother out of the driver's side. And they seen the damage that it caused behind her. And the paramedic asked me, because I didn't have any cuts or anything. He said, "Were you wearing your seatbelt?" And of course, I did what any kid would do in that situation. I lied and said, "Yeah." I was behind my sister. I was wearing my seatbelt. He said, okay. And he sort of looked at me like, I know you're lying to me, but I have no way to prove it. But in reality, I wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and I was not behind my sister. I was behind my mother. I would have been killed. Or worse, I would have had my neck snapped. The reason why I survived that crash, a couple minutes before that truck totaled our car, I had been building up the nerve, the courage to ask God a very, very important question. More importantly, to do something for me. Mind you, I was 8. I thought about this long and hard. I don't think it was no more than 8 months when I first started having this feeling. I was working up the nerve. I have to smoke me a cigarette. I haven't had one in a minute here. But what I wanted to ask God to do for me, I was A, afraid. B, I didn't know how to ask this. During our drive back from the grocery store, I looked up to the heavens. This was a cloudy day, mind you. Out my window, behind my mom, in the passenger seat, I said, God, I'd like you to take control of my life. It was almost as if God said, finally, what took you so long? And literally the clouds looked as if they parted. A ripple effect in water. Once you drop a pebble in, the clouds basically started to separate and the sun came out. And just as the sun came out, the truck came and hit us. I felt chills, as I do now. And I've always felt chills. That's how I know that it's either here with me or I'm manifesting it in some way. An uneasy feeling, basically. That first night when I was in bed, I was thinking, I really don't want to lose her so early. I don't want to become motherless. At this age, I just started talking. No one was in the room. And I felt like I was talking to somebody. I don't want to live this life without my mother, at least until I'm old enough to understand more about death or to have an easy feeling about death like I do now, because I'm just not ready for this. The way I felt was she'll be okay, having escaped barely with her life, but she'll be okay. She'll live and she'll be here. I think after it was almost a month, I want to say, she came home. But even then, she was still hurt and sore. She walked around slowly. It was miserable watching her. Oftentimes, I laugh because I'm thinking, man, she is really hurt. she is really banged up, but I felt it. I loved it. I admired it. This was mine, and I didn't want to share it. Had I known, I was so sincere. I've never been that sincere before in my life, and I asked God that question, and the heavens broke open, and it was almost as if he said, yeah, of course, I'll send you somebody. Just as that confirmation happened, the truck hit us, and walking away without a scratch. My middle school years, there were streets that I knew I could not go down because people go missing or people get hurt. But I was not scared to. I felt I could not go down these streets. And there were so many choices that I made that went against the way I felt. I didn't take well when it comes to following directions. I was defiant. I wanted to break all the rules. I talked to kids. They said, "Oh, I got an imaginary friend. His name's Tom." It's like, okay, Tom. My friend wasn't imaginary. And talk about feelings. The moment you decide to ask for that kind of presence to become an imminent part in your life, you really need to consider it's like a blind marriage. The feelings that I have, and I instantly pick up on people who are angry, people who are sad, people who are frightened, and I feel it. I actually said, I take it back. I don't want it. God, take this, whatever this thing is. Take it away from me. I'm tired of crying when there's nothing to cry about. I'm tired of being angry when no one has angered me. I'm tired of being so frustrated and depressed when there's nothing to be frustrated and depressed about. I'm tired of taking in all of these emotions, feeling people's pain. I just want to be me. I want to worry about me. I don't want to worry about everyone else. And when I start learning more and more about God and the unfailing love, His mercy, and it started to make sense. If this presence was sent from God, it will show the same properties. I would feel the same way God would feel. I warn you of that. I empty out my account a lot of times just to help. And later on, I'd say, I don't know why I did that. That was just so silly. That was so stupid of me. Why did I do that? I never told them because, one, I was embarrassed. Two, I felt they'd feel terrible and they want to give it back. And it's like, I don't want it back after I've given it. But shit. Having this heart of having God's heart, it with me is hard. And during those times, I do feel like the presence, if it could manifest words, would say, I'm sorry, I can't help it. This is what I come with. I've actually been asked this question a lot of times. If I decided to do just that, what you did, would my life be better? It follows me, protects me, His presence here. I'm actually quite fine with that. I'd rather have something with me that respects the integrity of my life. I've self-taught myself how to write, to draw, string a guitar. And on the other token, I would hate to have something. It does not have my best interest at heart. It doesn't give me that space. Demands more of me. It wants a sacrifice. Because I know people who are not able to sleep at night. Things that would reach out to them. They're heavily medicated. They're terrified of sleep. How long can you go on knowing that these things wouldn't let you? The screen here that you're looking at, it symbolizes that kind of darkness. You can see the child, he's sleeping. And it's not very clear, but around his neck there's a cross with, it's like Christ on the cross, and it's a necklace. In the center, you see this little ball of light with the words, "Leave him be." On the top right corner, you see the word night. On the bottom left, you see day, representing the two forces that are at play here. And if you squint and you can just barely make out in the far back towards the left, someone peering in, like they're opening the door. That's the mother who is checking on her child. She doesn't see what's going on, obviously. You see hands that are reaching out towards the child that's trying to grab him, manipulate his mind, take over. But this small light that is centered, is keeping all that stuff from him. This darkness tries so hard to manipulate your children. Their minds are so pure. They have yet to be exposed to porn, to sex, to drugs, to alcohol, harm our bodies, plague our minds. My father, I love him so much, but when he is operating under the spell of alcohol, he slurs a lot on his words. You can see the change, the transition that takes place after he's had a couple drinks. He forgets what he's saying oftentimes. His mind is decaying because of alcohol. It just kind of shows you how the mind can be affected. Children can be so susceptible. They can be so submissive. That's what this illustration is. And a little small ounce of light that's sitting there, it looks as if it has little to no control over all this. That's the presence. That's how powerful a small piece of God can be. That's the light that a lot of people feel when they meditate, that is hovering all over their body to heal different parts or to strengthen different parts. It makes a huge difference. You choose the darkness, and there's so much that you have to attain. You have to study, you have to read, you have to practice, you have to do sacrifices, you have to constantly be in connectivity with these creatures. Yet alone, you have to engage in incantations and rituals, and you have to do all this stuff just to maintain or just to scratch the surface, or to get the kind of aid you want. You have to go out and get candles, and you have to, there's just so much energy and focus and just so much stuff you have to put into all this. But with God, that little small piece, that's all you need, literally. I haven't done this in so long. I really did need this. This was important to me. This is my self-meditation. I am loving this. I want to get your thoughts. Log on to atkimble.com. How many of you guys believe the same thing? What you think, how you feel. Use your craft as your voice. Make an impact and change the world.